Oh, wow, that's one way to start a game. I am not a huge fan of jump scares in movies and video games. While I don't have a problems when they're in films, I just get bored if it's full of them. I prefer my horror games and movies to be more on the psychological side, dripping with atmosphere. And if all this is married with a good story, even better. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate jump scares as long as they're scares and not the only thing the media can offer. Think about something like Silent Hill. From all the games I have, the one that fits the description is Silence of the Sleep. A bloody good game and perfect for Halloween, or any other time. I will avoid spoiling puzzle solutions with just one exception. The beginning, as you saw, is not very joyful, it's rather depressing. No music, no ambient noises, just the rain, and you on the edge of an abyss. Your last words before the jump are, "Please, forgive me." This sets the tone for the whole game. With just minor exceptions, there is nothing cheerful in the game. You control Jacob Reeves. After the jump, everything goes black, but he's not dead. He wakes up in a bed somewhere in a desolated building with a neon clock spinning above him, dim light, bleak atmosphere, and no memory. After a quick search in the building and finding no one, you reach Bar Macon and start speaking with the bartender. He explains that this is the Moonlight Hotel and he is here to help you. This is where I stop. I don't wanna spoil it. The game is heavy on story. What I love is that I didn't catch all the twists. You get hints to some things, but you probably won't guess the ending. I love when I'm surprised, just love when this happens. Few words about the writing. It's very good, very well written. The compliment I can give about the dialogue is grounded to reality. What I mean is, it felt real. Just normal conversations despite the weird situation. It made in my eyes Jacob more sympathetic. He did something, but I'll let you discover what it is. This is not a spoiler, please forgive me in the beginning gave it away. Silence of the Sleep is side-scroller psychological horror adventure. The controls are very simple. You have your movement keys, interaction button, inventory button, sprint button. That's it. You play only with the keyboard. For those who want to play with a controller, I have bad news for you. You can't. You move on a 2D plane with no UI for maximum immersion, with the exception of the inventory, but you see it only when you press space. What's interesting is that you don't interact with objects only in the background, but also in the foreground. This adds a little bit of depth to the world. The emphasis in the gameplay is on solving puzzles in dark and gloomy environments while avoiding monsters. You can't defend yourself. Your only option is to run and or hide. If monster is chasing you, when you hide you have to play a mini game representing Jacob holding his breath. I'm not gonna show it because there is this flashing lights while the mini game is on screen and I am not sure if this can or not trigger a seizure in people with epilepsy. Trust me, it's nothing special. I'll probably crop a video and put it on the right. You can run, but you have invisible stamina bar. You can't do it without a break, so you have to be a bit careful. On some levels you are given a simple but very effective mechanic to play. At one earlier level you are shown that you can listen for sounds or peek through keyhole when you're closer to a door. On the last level, by pressing the right mouse button, Jacob says if the monster is getting closer or further away from him. I wasn't expecting it, but those two simple mechanics add to the immersion. It's really cool and creepy just to listen to the sounds that the monster makes without seeing it. You're not constantly chased. There are levels that there isn't a single monster. In between and during the hide-and-seek portion, you have to solve puzzles. I love them. Not overly complicated or too simple. The solution is usually in the couple of screens you are allowed to walk, and there is no inventory puzzles. There are always hints. I almost never felt frustrated. More on that later. For me, the puzzles had the right balance. There isn't much to say about the gameplay. You hide from monsters and solve puzzles. That's it. It's not innovative, but what it does it very good. The game excels in every single aspect, and not only in the story and gameplay sections. A horror game has to sell the atmosphere through one part, the images on screen. The graphics are very well done. This is what at first got my attention when I saw the game. The backgrounds are often dark and depressing with washed out colors. This is especially true on the levels with monsters. If you see a brighter, warmer color, it has some significance. Maybe it's a safe place or something else. They are levels with way warmer colors, by which you know you're safe. Maybe. The backgrounds are amazing. The hotel in the beginning is shiny and lively. You can also see almost destroyed house, sewers, and so on. The character models are very simple, but in a good way. Black cutouts. They stand out quite well from the backgrounds. There are some colors on some of them for easy recognition. The monsters look a bit like shadows, but they are very well made and different from each other design-wise. The last part where the game excels is the sound design. The effects are not too many, footsteps, car engine, etc. They are all well done, but the soundtrack is a different beast. For an indie game, and not only, it's brilliant. I can't praise it enough. While avoiding monsters, you hear a creepy piano track muffled a bit, at one point even with slight distortion. The bar you visit have the appropriate jazz in the background. When something major is happening, exciting intense music starts playing. There are a couple of standout tracks, my favorite being Dewey's song, but I'm letting you experience for yourself. There are a couple of missteps here and there, nothing too significant, but some may annoy people. Personally, they bug me a little bit, but nothing stopped me enjoying the game. The major problem a lot of people have is with the last level, the sewers. You can get lost. I was too until I found the map for the sewers. But since you walk on a 2D plane and the map is shown from the top-down view, it takes a little bit of adjusting to find your way around. It's not that hard. What I didn't mention in the gameplay section is that opening the inventory doesn't pause the game. It adds tension, especially if you're chased, but also is a blessing in this situation. You can walk and constantly check the map. I personally had issues with some of the puzzles. For a couple of them, it's probably my fault. What I mean is, if there was a hint, I didn't find it. In particular, the puzzle with the oven had me a little bit frustrated, and I wasn't the only one who had trouble finding the solution. There are also a couple of minor problems. One is with the backgrounds. The interactive scenery is not always obvious, so you have to stop on a screen with a lot of stuff and check if there is something to do or pick up. This doesn't happen that often. Another small issue was with the foreground doors. Turn around to face the door, it becomes solid and you can interact with it. At one level there was a door which was almost invisible. I checked the recording and I can barely see it. Inside was a hint about the puzzle. If this was intentional, I don't like it. It's dark and you can barely see the door. Found it by accident. Intentional or not, this happened only once and I already found the solution to the puzzle. I brute forced it. One last thing, it's a bit strange. At a later part of the game, you're supposed to paint something. When you're ready, the game is supposed to save it. But in a couple of scenes after that, when it's supposed to show what you drawn, it shows my desktop background. I don't know if this was a bug or not. I have the feeling this is intentional. What I draw was not very appropriate for showing. Sometimes I have the mind of a 14-year-old. One last nitpick. When in cutscenes, Jacob's movement is fluid. It looks like to me it was used rotoscoping animation, similar to the original Prince of Persia. But when you start controlling the character, the animations are stiff. It's noticeable, but not a big deal. As I said, it's just a nitpick. The game is almost flawless, but which one is without problems? What I'm amazed is that this is one-man project. From the graphics to the story to the music, everything. It's very well made and I regret not playing it sooner. The dev also have another 2D side-scroller horror game which I have intention to play at some point, Distraint. I think for Silence of Sleep the dev has been inspired by Silent Hill, which is not a bad thing. The atmosphere and setting strongly remind me of Silent Hill, especially the part when from normal looking world suddenly starts to get rotten, rusty and bloody. I love it. If this is not a reason to buy it, I don't know what else can make you. I'll drop a little hint. If you don't want to know, just stop the video. While writing, I found that depending on certain actions, there will be a small difference in the final scene. It may be small, but it drastically changes the meaning. So, you can say the game have two endings. I have one last thing to say before I end the video. Excellent game.